my friends are simps.
Alright, so it is very late here in Glasgow, Scotland, and this is not the kind of video that I relish making. However, over the past couple of days, a lot of people have asked me for my thoughts and comments on the newly announced Polyend Tracker Mini. Now this makes a lot of sense, right? Because I have done videos talking about the original experience I had with the Polyend Tracker and all of those problems, but I've also spoken a lot about the Dirtywave M8 and how much I use it live and all that kind of stuff. And to be fair, I've also spoken a lot about the newly released Polyend Play, which I actually think is genuinely excellent. Now obviously I can't speak properly about the newly released or newly announced Polyend Tracker Mini because apparently nobody in the world apart from Ben Jordan has had any extended time with it, and so I couldn't do that in good faith. But there's been a lot of chat about it and it feels like it's worthy of saying a couple of initial feelings, not least because you keep asking me about it, so fucking here we are. For those that are not in the loop, Polyend have just announced that they are going to be bringing out a new version of their tracker, which is a hardware device which kind of takes after Octamed or something like that on the Amiga. Effectively, they've shrunk it down into a wee Kindle-sized format, which is actually fairly pleasing to look at, I think, and I wouldn't mind having a look at one. But effectively, it's the same core concept, it's the same software in there, there's just a bunch of additional features. For example, there is an onboard microphone, there is an internal battery, which means you don't have to be tied to USB-C like you were with the original Polyend Tracker. There's also support for stereo samples, you can stream audio over USB, and finally, there's also more RAM, so you can basically load in more samples, I guess, before the memory craps out. Everything else that's been talked about, I think, is quite vague and not something I'm going to comment on until I see it for myself. Now, all of the features that have been announced by Polyend for the new Tracker Mini are very welcome. They are things that a lot of people have been asking for since the original Tracker came out, perhaps by way of a firmware upgrade, but the proof will be in the pudding. If you've watched any of my original videos where I talk about the Polyend Tracker, particularly the one where I speak about the Polyend Tracker versus the Dirtywave M8, then you'll know that some of the things that I really loved about the tracker were the fact that it was a desktop unit, the fact it had a scroll wheel which made it really easy to go through values, and that big kind of beautiful array of pads. And so I don't really know how they're going to compete with the Dirtywave M8 since the newer Polyend Tracker Mini removes a lot of those key features and the M8 is not even arguably, it is definitely more powerful and more capable than the tracker. Now, one thing I am really excited about is the fact that the Polyend Tracker Mini has a bigger screen. There is a lot more information they're trying to cram in onto that screen versus the M8, I think. But for a blind bastard like me, I mean, these are not fashion glasses, right? I mean, these are the real deal. And so after using the M8 for a wee while, I do get eye fatigue and, you know, there's something appealing about having a nice screen like that. Now, there's loads of reasons that people might be interested in the Polyend Tracker Mini, not least the fact that it's got a much more straightforward workflow than the LSDJ style approach that the M8 has. There's a lot of complexity and depth to the M8, but the Polyend Tracker allows you to create sequences and arrangements much quicker and easier if you're new to that world, which can be a bonus. With that said, I would caution anybody of making early comparisons between these two devices until people have actually got their hands on them and been able to check out the differences in the workflow, because, you know, a handheld device, there's a lot that goes into the actual machinations of how you change or, you know, interact with various parameters, and I think we need to wait and see. One thing I really loved about the Polyend tracker was the fact it was this sturdy desktop unit, and whilst it might not have been as complex or deep as the M8, it gave me this kind of solid unit that I could sit in a stand in my studio, hook it up to my Eurorack or whatever else, and just sequence a whole bunch of different things at once, and I like that physicality, and I don't quite understand this transition from that to the handheld world, because when it gets into that region, the M8 is on paper way much better. Either way, I think at this stage it's important that before we cast judgment, or indeed we place a pre-order, that we wait to see how the device actually pans out in person and not just rely on a single YouTube video from somebody who apparently has been involved in the creative process since 2019. I think it's unlikely that Polyend are going to send me one of these to check out, as much as I would love to, and I am not going to be spending my own money to go do so, because I do think at this stage the M8 is infinitely more powerful and more capable, and there's nothing within the Polyend Tracker Mini that is compelling me to go and, you know, try that. And I hope that will change, because I am a big fan of trackers and I would love there to be more options out there. Maybe they'll surprise me. I don't know. Now, the one other thing I wanted to say before I closed out this video is that I'm actually really pretty fucking unimpressed with the tone of some of the communications around the announcement of the Tracker Mini. Now, I'm not referring in any way to the official communications from Polyend themselves. They have had really amazing videos they've uploaded to their YouTube channel, which I really respect and love, and you should go watch them if you haven't seen them. They're really genuinely quite brilliant. But some of the other announcements, particularly Ben Jordan's video to be specific, there was this kind of, there was a lack of respect for the wider tracker community. There wasn't really any mention of the Dirtywave M8. There was this suggestion in the comments that the M8 was somehow perhaps not a finished product when it was released, and I think all of that is kind of fucking bullshit, actually. Having grown up in the world where I was making music in the chiptune scene and everybody was very supportive, and Tim Lamb, who made the M8, was one of the integral people who coded the MIDI solution for LSDJ at the time, way before the fucking Polyend tracker, by the way. It just feels a wee bit kind of snarky and unnecessary, and I'm not really interested in any of that. Either way, I would love to check out the Tracker Mini. I think the more devices like this and the more options that are available, the better. However, I don't think somehow I am the top of Polyend's list, especially after this video. For now, I guess we'll see what happens. Keep an eye out, and if you buy one of them and you like it, let me know.